Get somebody out here.
Is he in your yard, sir?
Paranormal TV wants your story. If you or anyone you know has had a paranormal experience, make contact at paranormaltv.tv. Your encounter could appear on Paranormal TV. Become a part of the phenomenon.
One of the things that made Tombstone possible was the prevalence of Chiricahua Apache incidents in this part of Arizona territory in the late 1870s. Geronimo and his band were still very much active in this corner, and a column of troops were sent down from central Arizona to establish Camp Huaychuca on the San Pedro River. And one of the men who accompanied the party from central Arizona was a young prospector named Ed Schieffelin. Ed Schieffelin did his duties as a civilian scout for the Army, but in his free time liked to prospect in the hills around what would later become Tombstone. Schieffelin was told many times that all he would find in these hills would be his tombstone. And when he found his $1 million claim out here in the middle of nowhere, he named the mine the Tombstone Mine in honor of all the people who thought he would meet an early death. Word traveled quickly to California. The place blew up overnight, quite rapidly. It went from being a dusty little hillside to a population of several thousand in a matter of months. There was a lot of money here that came in very quickly, and that money was spent very freely as well, which made the gamblers and saloon keepers happy. A lot of negative energy came through Tombstone in the 1870s and 1880s. The story of Tombstone is the story of conquest. Native populations fought each other, Mexicans and Americans fought each other, and then finally in the 1880s, the inhabitants of the town turned on each other and fought and killed each other. And a lot of the unquiet spirits remain here to this day.
Tombstone drew people here from far and wide because of greed. They stayed, they had their dreams, and some of them had their lives cut short because of them. They say that ghosts are the souls of people who died with unfinished business. We always warn people in Tombstone to be very careful. Those folks that died too young with unfinished business, try to live it through other people.
In the late afternoon and the early evening, when the street lamps start to flicker to life and the sun goes down, it's not hard to imagine yourself being here in 1881. It's not hard to imagine that the fellow walking past you is Wyatt Earp or Texas John Slaughter or Ike Clanton. And at that time, it's easy to think and easy to see, not the tombstone that is, but the tombstone that was.
Made for on demand.
Get somebody out here.
Is he in your yard, sir?
Paranormal TV wants your story. If you or anyone you know has had a paranormal experience, make contact at paranormaltv.tv. Your encounter could appear on Paranormal TV. Become a part of the phenomenon.
The appeal of Tombstone to a great many people who visit, as well as to those who live here, is that it is the only place like it left in America. Our desire to go back into our own past and understand who we are means literally going to the places that made us who we are today. And Tombstone, Arizona, for good and for ill, is a big part of the American experience. One of the incidents that led up to the Earp-Cowboy rivalry and accelerated Wyatt Earp's desire to take over Tombstone and Cochise County was the murder of Town Marshal Fred White in October 1880. Fred White was out of his element. He'd been a furniture salesman in San Francisco, a member of a couple of fire departments. He was a well-meaning person, but not a person fit for the job of marshal, and Wyatt Earp knew that and had told him that. Fred White took the job anyway and tried to do his job as best he could. He was not someone cut out for that kind of a job in a town like Tombstone. Curly Bill Brocious and his outlaw friends from Texas were down by the Birdcage Theater. They were shooting their guns off, drinking in public, and going right down every list of things not to do in public.
Curly Bill, I'll have those guns. You'll get it back.
Fred White attempted to arrest Curly Bill Brocious, and he wasn't really familiar with sound police procedure.
Hey, sure, Fred.
He and Wyatt Earp were carrying out a kind of good cop, bad cop routine.
Hey, Fred. Hey, not from the front.
Fred White was shot in the groin and bled to death over the course of 3 days. It was something that affected Wyatt Earp deeply. Wyatt Earp quit his job as a Pima County deputy sheriff and decided to focus on becoming the sheriff of the county, keeping things like this from happening again. Curly Bill, unfortunately, dodged the hangman's noose. He convinced the judge that it was an accident, that he was drunk, that he didn't know any better. People who knew Curly Bill knew that was a lie, though. He'd killed men in Texas. He was a fugitive from the Texas Rangers in El Paso. Ultimately, Wyatt Earp would make Curly Bill pay. It would take him almost a year and a half to do it, but he caught up with Curly Bill in March of 1882 and made him pay for that crime and several others.
Made for on demand.
Get somebody out here.
Is he in your yard, sir?
Paranormal TV wants your story. If you or anyone you know has had a paranormal experience, make contact at paranormaltv.tv. Your encounter could appear on Paranormal TV. Become a part of the phenomenon.
In the 1880s, the Birdcage Theater was one of the most popular saloons and gambling houses in the town of Tombstone. A young man named Billy Milgreen was one of the most popular gamblers to work in the establishment. Billy was also somewhat of a ladies' man.
Who's gonna copper a bet? Anyone?
It was hard for the women who worked in the Birdcage to do their jobs and leave Billy alone so he could do his job, dealing cards.
Loses an 8 and wins a queen. What a surprise.
Two of the women who were interested in him also happened to hate each other with a passion. One of them was a young Mexican lady named Margarita, and another one was a lady of somewhat miscellaneous affections named Gold Dollar. One evening when Gold Dollar observed Billy keeping company with Margarita, she snapped. She went after Margarita with a small knife and proceeded to cut out Margarita's heart to make a point that she considered Billy her man. In the chaos, Gold Dollar escaped into the night and was never heard from again. The Birdcage Theater unfortunately fell into a period of disrepair and disuse. It was boarded up for a very long time, and actually in the 1930s, the owner of the Birdcage, Charles Cummings, began to put his personal collection of Tombstone memorabilia into the Birdcage and allow the public in. That wasn't all that was on display in the Birdcage. In addition to the memorabilia and old pictures, people started to notice some of the people who used to work there a half-century earlier. People like Billy Milgreen, people like Gold Dollar herself. Although Margarita lost the fight with Gold Dollar, there's every indication that she is also one of the spirits that is in residence at the Birdcage Theater today.
Made for on demand.
Get somebody out here.
Is he in your yard, sir?
Paranormal TV wants your story. If you or anyone you know has had a paranormal experience, make contact at paranormaltv.tv. Your encounter could appear on Paranormal TV. Become a part of the phenomenon.
A big part of why Tombstone remains a popular attraction has to do with the gunfight at the OK Corral. A big part of Tombstone's legend is the participants in the gunfight. Men like Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. What essentially set it up was the desire of Wyatt Earp to retake Tombstone and remake it in his image. Tombstone was run by a man named Johnny Behan, who was the sheriff of the county. And Wyatt wanted Johnny's job. Wyatt wanted Johnny's girlfriend. With his brothers and men like Doc Holliday and Luke Short, gambler gunfighters who were very well known around the West Coast mining frontier, Wyatt set out to take over the town. Johnny Behan's friends included men like the Clantons and the McLowrys, who were cattle rustlers and stage robbers, and it set the stage for a classic showdown, which took place in Tombstone in October of 1881.
I'm gonna kill all of you!
There were complaints leveled that the cowboys were carrying guns in town illegally. There were complaints made that the Earps were lying in wait to kill the cowboys or even to kill Johnny Behan. What is true is impossible to say. Threats were made on both sides. A lot of alcohol was involved, a lot of testosterone. Finally, at about 2:45 on October 26, 1881, they met in a small lot about 15 feet wide near the intersection of 3rd and Fremont Streets. According to the Earp brothers, Virgil Earp, who was the city marshal, demanded that the cowboys surrender their guns.
We're here to disarm you. Throw up your hands. Oh! That's not what I want!
What happened in the next half minute's impossible to say. All we know for certain is that 3 men, Frank and Tom McLowry and Billy Clanton, were killed. We know that several of the Earp party were wounded. We know that Wyatt Earp emerged from the gunfight unscathed. There were no winners or losers at the corral, there were only survivors. One of the unfortunate incidents of the gunfight is the participation and death of Billy Clanton, whose older brother Ike started most of the trouble that related to the gunfight, who was going around making the threats against the Earps. And as far as most testimony established, Billy was not interested in having a gunfight. Unfortunately, at the age of 19, he died shooting right along with Frank and Tom McLowry. But he was not the instigator. He happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, or more to the point, was related to the wrong person.
This stable area is where the cowboys had plotted against the Earps and made some determinations about going after them to kill them. Tom McLowry and his brother Frank and young Billy Clanton planned here. Billy did not want to participate in this. He was pretty much only doing what his big brother Ike wanted him to do. When he was murdered not far from here in the alleyway, his spirit came back to this area.
To this day, as people visit the corral, they will occasionally see a man walking around in the stalls and the stables. and they'll comment to the employees about why are one of the actors still here, and the actors aren't there. A great many people feel this is Billy Clanton still wandering around the scene of his death, trying to make sense of it. I don't think he's been any more successful than the historians have been.
Made for on demand.
Get somebody out here.
Is he in your yard, sir?
Paranormal TV wants your story. If you or anyone you know has had a paranormal experience, make contact at paranormaltv.tv. Your encounter could appear on Paranormal TV. Become a part of the phenomenon.
Gold was discovered in the streams around Denver in 1858. The prospectors knew that what you found in the streams had simply washed down from the gold in the mountains, so they started panning every single creek that came into the mountains. And on May the 6th, 1859, John Gregory made the strike that started the Pikes Peak or Bust gold rush. He made the strike on May the 6th. He had 8 men with him. By that July 4th celebration, there were 30,000 men climbing all over these gulches and hills. Central City was born because it was in the middle of about 5 early gold mining camps. Central City was the heart of the gold mining industry through the 1860s, 70s, 80s.
A lot of the mine owners, basically just paid the miners a daily wage, $3 or $4 a day, and that was it. The miners had to supply their own tools and equipment and clothing and so on. Back then, they were working by candlelight, so it was, of course, pretty dark, hard to see underground, and they were using hand tools, single jacking or double jacking, depending on the circumstances. Double jacking, of course, was more dangerous because one miner would hold a drill steel while the partner hit it with a sledgehammer. So, of course, if he missed, that was not very good for the guy's fingers that's holding the steel. And they're working by candlelight, of course. To save money from that paltry sum that they got as a daily salary, they would even just use one candle at a time. So if 2 guys were working together, one guy would put his candle out just to save a little money from burning 2 candles at once. It was real dangerous for them, and of course there were no safety regulations at all back then, so lots of accidents and so on, cave-ins or guys falling down a shaft or accidents with explosives, of course. And they were pretty much on their own to just take care of themselves.
The lode gold in our mountains was very refractory, is the miner's term. It was difficult to separate from the granite around it. They needed the best miners in the world, and those were the Cornish, the tin miners from Cornwall, England, who had mined tin for 1,500 years. It's estimated that 10,000 Cornish either came directly from Cornwall, England, or were first generation here in Gilpin County. They brought their Tommy knockers. They're little elf-like spirits. They're a cross between an elf and a leprechaun. The specific purpose of Tommy knockers was to protect the miners. And the Cornish miners knew if you were working in a shaft or a tunnel and you heard this mysterious knocking, get out. It was a Tommyknocker knocking on the wall, telling you it was time to get out. Many of the Cornish miners swore that their lives had been saved by the little Tommyknockers.
Made for on demand.
Get somebody out here.
Is he in your yard, sir?
Paranormal TV wants your story. If you or anyone you know has had a paranormal experience, make contact at paranormaltv.tv. Your encounter could appear on Paranormal TV. Become a part of the phenomenon.
Pure Paranormal and the Unexplained Research and Exploration is a group that was formed in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Paranormal and the unexplained, and I think it's fascinating.
The mission of the group is always to find the truth.
There are so many things about the world that we don't know. Clearly, there have been things that I can't explain. I'm all for exploring.
We are not just ghost hunters. We are out there to find the truth on all different types of the mysteries that lie out there.
We're about to investigate the Heidi mine, which is supposedly haunted. So we're going to bring some of our equipment in there and take some pictures with our film cameras and digital cameras, see what the EMFs are like, try to get some EVPs.
The Heidi claim was originally filed in 1896 as a group of, I think, 3 guys filed the claim, and they got together that evening down in town and said, well, you know, we found this gold vein, we got to come up with a name for it. So they all had their favorite girl, shall I say, down in town. Her name was Heidi, and they, of course, didn't know how to read or write very well, and they didn't know how to spell Heidi, so it came out as H-I-D-E-E, Heidi Gold Mine.
We're on our way in to the mine, and we can see right now the EMFs, they're pretty much at 0.2, 0.3. There's not too much going on.
Oh, it's cold down here.
And it's very cold.
Ow. I am the skeptic of the group. I think that it's very interesting to see just how much people affect their own environments. It's not that I don't believe, because I do have an open mind, but I'm not convinced yet.
What's our temperature right now?
It is 39.9.
All right. And the EMF is staying at a 0.4, 0.2.
Yeah, this isn't doing anything. What's down there?
Apparently explosives. We're still saying at a 0.1 or a 0.2. So nothing yet. And then of course with the electricity it's a 1.9. Can we get a temperature reading?
I just took one. It was 41.6.
Okay, so we're staying pretty constant. And the EMFs aren't going off.
No, nothing.
So we're staying at a... Oh. We just lost power in here. I'm gonna... That was close.
How did that happen? Does anyone know?
No?
Does that happen often?
This just went off too.
Well, you just turned it on.
No, I didn't. It was
Are you serious?
Yeah.
And I'm getting nothing.
What? It just beeped. Because it's been on.
You know, I was kind of thinking maybe there's a motion sensor or something, but when we said no, we thought it was a good opportunity to do EVPs, just in case, because you never know. Our recorders are still on. They've been on the entire time. But we're going to ask Who turned out the lights? We were fine, we came around the corner and all of a sudden the lights went out by themselves. No reason for it. Do you not want us in here? Are you trying to warn us about something?
Do you have something to tell us?
If there's something here, make a noise.
It'll really be interesting to see what we got and if the EVPs captured anything at that point. So we'll go back tonight, we'll check, we'll put our film into a developer, get that back, and see if we actually got anything on film and on the EVPs.
You always have that moment where it's kind of that excitement and then your rational mind kind of kicks in and you start thinking of ways to explain it.
I wouldn't want to be trapped down here all day long.
No.
Made for on demand.
Get somebody out here.
Is he in your yard, sir?
Paranormal TV wants your story. If you or anyone you know has had a paranormal experience, make contact at paranormaltv.tv. Your encounter could appear on Paranormal TV. Become a part of the phenomenon.
Some of the buildings that you see in the commercial district were built in 1861 and 62, very early. There's always been ghosts apparently, and most of them are connected with the buildings. I think the ghosts have stayed here because it's such a unique town. It's so Victorian, it's very unique in its character. They love their places. Probably most of the ghosts are the original owner of that home, and they prefer to stay there and protect it. The ones that cause trouble are the ones that think you are not protecting their property the way they want it protected.
I know nothing about this hotel. I have come into this blind. We like to go into places without knowing what's going on in order that we don't fabricate stories or letting our minds play tricks on us. There are several entities in this hotel, and hopefully we are going to capture evidence of those entities to show the world that they're here and we are not alone, and that there is life beyond what we are.
4 rolls of this?
Yes.
And where all are you guys going to set up cameras?
We'll probably just hit a couple of the bedrooms and down the hallway.
We have 4 cameras that go out. They are night vision, they're also day vision as well.
So this one's got to be kind of turned a little bit.
How's that?
To get the stairs?
Back over the, whatever way, back to the right? Oh, you want to get the stairs?
Yes.
Then you're fine.
And we always record everything, and we make sure that everything is always going to be held in a library. If anybody ever doubts what we do or they want to go back and see what we do, we can actually provide them with proof.
This is room 24. The time is 11:59 a.m. on 8/22 of 08.
Okay.
72.1 degrees in here.
Okay, can I get another reading on another wall?
70.4.
Okay. It's said that when an entity is present that it will normally get colder, but at times it'll also heat up as well.
0.5, 0.6, 0.7.
These are energy walks into the room. These will spike. These will go up. So we always gauge when we first.
Second, there's a really weird.
Right there.
1.3.
And it's raising, and I'm holding it still. And it's raising all by itself. Because
I'm gonna flash. Ready?
Go ahead. I'm gonna see if there's anything under the bed that could be.
3.0.
No, there's no electrical wires under the bed.
3.1.
So, here, mark where we were getting readings, because it was right in the middle.
Let's put it right there.
Right here. All right, now let's leave it alone. Let's check out around here, and let's come back to it.
All right. So it's a 7.0, 6.1.
Yeah, it's consistent in this area, so we're just gonna have to be careful when we do this. But this will probably be a good place to do EVPs. So let's definitely do EVPs in here.
Definitely.
Our audio digital recorders are used to pick up EVPs, electronic voice phenomena. What that is voices that are not present at the time that we are doing an investigation. So we leave them on the entire time while we are doing things, because we have picked up things while we are just walking into a room or across a room.
Just to let you know, on the EVP, there's somebody outside. So if you hear a man's voice.
This is why it's better to do things at night, because things are calmer, quieter, and then that way when we're doing our EVPs, we can look back and know that we were the only people around and the only people who could be heard. Unfortunately, in this type of situation right now, that's uncontrollable. However, later on tonight, we'll be able to control it much better.
Made for on demand.
Get somebody out here.
Is he in your yard, sir?
Paranormal TV wants your story. If you or anyone you know has had a paranormal experience, make contact at paranormaltv.tv. Your encounter could appear on Paranormal TV. Become a part of the phenomenon.
The ghosts in this building were pretty active when they were putting in the inn, because they were confused about what was going in. And the original inn, of course, was put in prior to gaming. But they became convinced that they were doing a good job, they did love this property, and that the people who stayed here would love it. And I've never heard that they've caused any trouble.
There are several entities in this hotel, and hopefully we are going to capture evidence of those entities. We have 4 cameras. They are night vision, they're also day vision as well. We run each camera to each room, and we're gonna have somebody in here watching the screen.
Do you not want us in here? Are you trying to warn us about something?
Do you have something to tell us?
Made for on demand.